Hello, welcome back to Behind the Lines with Gabe and Kev. But this time, it's not Kev. Emergency call. We brought in Henry. Henry, how you doing tonight?
Hey, doing good. Glad to fill in. Kevin must have been so scared about our matchup this week that he decided to fake being sick.
Yeah,
And
bailed.
so here I am.
Really unprofessional of the guy. You hate to see it, and especially in a matchup with you. So I bring on his opponent, and we're gonna see
hmm
how you do on your first day. So
Yeah, I mean, it's just clear that he doesn't have his head in it from the
no,
get-go. So
no, and
sad to see.
with head coach being sick, we're gonna have to worry about how training goes for the Puka Nakuas.
Yeah, hopefully he doesn't give it to any of his players. That'd
Yeah.
be
Diving in here, first matchup that happened in week 7
hmm
toppled me 155 to 124. Bennett moves up to 4-3. I dropped to 3-4, and it was disappointing. I mean, I put up a good amount of points. It was a good week from a lot of guys on my squad. Kirk Cousins, Travis Etienne, both above 20. TJ Hawkinson almost hits 20, and then guys like Jacoby Myers and Michael Pittman doing well. But you have to ask, where is Devontae Smith? The dude is not performing what I drafted him to. And especially with Mike Williams going down, I need my guys to perform. And Calvin Ridley too. He's just been a ghost since he's been on my team. And then obviously Bennett just has Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce combined for almost 76 points. So I was fucked.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot you can do about that one. If he's gonna just drop it on you, he's gonna drop it on you. You did score, what was it? Like third highest, fourth highest this week. Um, and then Josh Downs putting up his season high at 24. Um, things just didn't go your way this week, unfortunately. Fortunately for Bennett, he moves up to 4-3, and his playoff chances look a little bit better.
Yeah, definitely better than mine. He's technically, I think, in the playoffs by the current standings, but we'll see how it shakes up at the end of the season. And next matchup of the week, one that definitely has more playoff implications. I'll let you address this one. Kevin and I usually flip flop it.
hmm Yeah, so Eli comes out, takes a convincing win. All of his players do fine. DeAndre Swift underperforms a little bit, but that's probably something that Eli's getting a little bit used to, having those swing games from the Eagles. Big news from Jameer. Jameer, Dalton Boy, comes out, puts up his first actual fantasy performance of the season.
Phenomenal.
Does really, really well. Gets into the end zone. Tyreek does Tyreek things, and then unfortunately for Eli, Christian Watson goes down with it was a shoulder injury during the game,
Knee injury.
knee injury. Okay. And then a couple streamers at the bottom of Eli's bench don't, or the guys he's playing doesn't sink his ship this week, which is something that I'm sure Eli's excited to see. On the other side of the ball, Charlie has Josh Allen perform really well.
Yeah, and that's about it. I mean,
Yep, that's about it. Unfortunately for him, Brandon Ayuk goes out, does he has an okay day. Everybody else, 2.3 from Kadarius Toney. You hate to see it. Jonnu Smith has been on a kind of a hot streak recently. It comes crumbling down as it's just a weird game from Atlanta all around. But we'll talk about that, I'm sure.
yeah.
So yeah, stinker from Charlie, unfortunately for him, but he'll hope to break the streak next week.
Yeah, and I mean it's a streak that's starting to have some implications. He drops to 2-5 with that loss. Eli, of course, moving back up, ending his 3-game losing streak against Charlie. And now somebody who didn't end their losing streak, Sam versus Kevin.
Or
Sam,
Sam, man.
he doesn't break 100 by point 0.1. Kevin drops 150 on his head, moves up to 5-2. And this is now like battling with Charlie for one of the worst rosters. I mean, he does have Jordan Addison who drops 31, which is a
A
third.
massive game from Jordan
Yeah.
Addison. He has his breakout game. It was cool to see. Dude, that rip away touchdown that he had from
Correct.
that guy was insane.
You'll see that in the intro, or you've already,
Mm,
I guess. But you, Henry, will see.
yeah.
However, you've got guys underperforming Kyle Pitts, who he drafted highly, Alexander Madison, who he just traded Alex for, and then obviously Bijan with the migraines, and we'll discuss that in the injury segment. But 0.3 points is just horrible, and there was no news about him not playing, so it was gross. And then looking at Kevin's team, I mean, all the pieces just kind of fell into place. Cooper Cup has a bad week, but Puka Nakua goes off. Tyler Lockett has a down week, but his tight end puts up 22 points. And then you've got Jonathan Taylor, kind of the return, and Dante Foreman, who was dropped by Eli during a trade, which we'll discuss as well, puts up 33 points. And not only, I mean, obviously, if he wasn't on there, Kevin would still win, but doesn't necessarily secure the win, but helps him get there and is going to be somebody that Kevin likes to have on the bench going forward as a rotational piece.
Yeah, gives him a great score on the week. I actually put in a $1 bid for Deontay Foreman, and Kevin snuck it out from under me with a $3 bid. So props to Kevin. Good pickup.
Next matchup of the week.
All right. This was a stinker matchup all around, unfortunately, for both of these teams. On Noah's side of the ball, Sam Howell is either, putting up 30 fantasy points or putting up, well, in one case, -7, in this case, just the 7. Who was it? The Vikings kind of held CMC in check a little bit after his injury. He still looked really good. Like he was still doing the Christian McCaffrey things, but he didn't, tear for 4 touchdowns like he has been known to do in the past. Brian Robinson, a little bit of an under game. Everybody a little bit under on Noah's side of the ball. Cole Kmet goes down in the game with what was it? I don't know. He's on the IR. He's injured. So that's going to be something that Noah has to look out for.
Yeah. I mean, you hate to see Noah having 2 guys drop a goose egg. And
I'm sorry, that wasn't Cole Kmet. That was Zach Ertz on Noah's bench.
Yeah.
Cole Kmet's fine.
Tao, dropped the T, pulled an owl maneuver this week, got the dub out while scoring less than 100 points. It's impressive. I mean, the luck. Salvin Ahmed puts up 1.3. Josh Jacobs held the 5.1. And then Jerick McKinnon, I mean, performs about as expected, 4.6 compared to 6.3. But a disappointing performance all around, and he still sneaks it out in a crucial spot.
Honestly, the difference there is the tight end spot. Tal has Dallas Goedert, and Kevin called it going into the week. He pops off with a touchdown and kind of saved Tal's fantasy day.
Yeah, definitely boosted him above Noah there in that critical moment. Now we have your matchup. Let's go golfing. Pulls out the dub against you. You dropped to 5-2. Alex on a win streak, 2 wins in a row.
Is he back? Are the rumors of his demise greatly exaggerated? Could be.
I mean, it could be. You obviously had a lot of guys do very bad. Justin Herbert only 8 points. Raheem Mostert only 6 points. Keenan Allen only 9 points. Kind of connected to Herbert's bad performance. And then you've got Curtis Samuel in a loss to the Giants, only putting up 6, and Wandale in that same game only putting up 3. And then Alex didn't really have anybody explode, but he just had everybody.
He had a good fantasy day.
He had everybody do enough. I mean, nobody underperformed too bad, and a couple of guys overperformed. So
no, I mean, and that's half the time. That's exactly what you're asking for. So props to Alex. He has a good team, and he takes one away from me this week.
Yeah, and we're 2 weeks into the trade now. The Alex trade for Isaiah Pacheco for Alexander Madison just looks much stronger for him.
Yeah, looking great for Alex.
6th and final matchup of the week. You want to take this one?
Sure. So this was going into this week. I think one of you said it was the matchup to watch, and that's definitely what it turned out to be. Let's start with Al's side. Lamar looks fantastic. He's passing so well. He's running well. His receivers kind of suck, but when they can actually pull it in, they look really great. He has, let's see, Jaleel McLaughlin is a streamer, I'm sure. Amari Cooper has been looking a little down without Deshaun Watson recently. PJ Walker just not getting the job done. AJ Brown, fantastic. Super, super great. Week in, week out. We were a little worried going in about whether or not it would be him or DeAndre Swift. And AJ Brown has been getting a lot of consistent volume. Everything else, pretty average. And then, unfortunately for Wyatt, he goes down, puts up a really solid fantasy day, would have won a lot of the matchups. in the league. Unfortunately, he has Keontae Ingram go up with 0 points. The whole Cardinals backfield situation is, who knows what's going to be going on there. It could have been DeMarcado, it could have been him. But unfortunately for Wyatt, he picked wrong this week.
Yeah, and then I think most critically, we talked about this and we've talked about this for weeks, but Gabe Davis is that hit or miss
Yeah.
guy. He puts up a stick for Wyatt this week, and Wyatt only loses by 15 points. Now, if Gabe Davis has one of those great weeks where he puts up 20 plus, and he has a running back who puts up points, then you've got something to talk about there. Al obviously kind of stringing together a team with Derrick Henry on a bye. He's got Tank Dell, who's on a bye and injured, and then Roshan Johnson, who's injured, and T. Higgins on a bye. So, yeah, really big dub for Al to pull out here with all the guys he has scrapping together, and Lamar Jackson's 40 points play a huge role in that.
And unfortunately for Wyatt, his trade with me this past week, he picks up Kamara, who drops 29 points, and it's not quite enough for him.
Yeah.
So it would have been nice, at least for me to see me trading off one of my guys and then him getting the win.
Yeah, and you gotta hope that he's not reeling from that trade now. Like, why did I make a move to win this week when I didn't even win this week? Oh my!
True. He can't be feeling too bad with 29 from Kamara.
Definitely. I mean, he definitely looks good, but it's just like that Wyatt felt the pressure
sure.
to make that move because he wanted to win this week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So unfortunate.
Diving into week 8 here, though, we'll have my matchup at the top. Me 3-4 versus Noah at 4-3. Now, I have been pretty unlucky, and we'll talk about it later with the amount of points getting scored against me. But I am projected more than Noah this week. I've got a 7.7 point advantage. And just quickly glancing at the key matchups here, I mean, he has Trevor Lawrence. I have Etienne and Ridley, so it kind of cancels out a little bit, but Etienne can hopefully edge some points in that matchup. And then I think some key guys to watch are Brian Robinson versus the Eagles, because he's been underperforming the past few weeks, and the Eagles have a great run defense. DK Metcalf, who's been injured with a rib, his first game back will be against Cleveland, who is so far this year the #1 pass defense. And then Cole Kmet, who put up a stick last week. So those 3 guys for Noah are really crucial factors. And then for me, kind of the return of Ramondre Stevenson. Is he going to score points, or is he going to have another dud? Devontae Smith, is he going to do anything more than 6-7 points, because I need him to? And then Calvin Ridley, he put up a stick for me last week, and it's a part of the reason why I lost. So that's an important guy that I'm going to need to perform for me.
Mm-hmm. Definitely hoping for the Kirk to Hawk touchdown.
Yeah,
for sure.
The stack
makes a big difference.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. Second matchup of the week, I'll let you take this one.
Sure thing. So we've got Bennett looking up against Eli. Going to be a very close matchup from the way things are projected, and it's probably going to come down to whether or not Mahomes and Kelsey can do what they did last week. If they're projected 40 and they're putting up 70 points, that's a huge difference. Notable matchups this week, you've got Drake London going up against Tennessee. That's probably going to be a good matchup for Desmond Ridder, hopefully for both everybody on the Falcons and Bennett.
And important note just happened today. Sorry to interrupt, but Tennessee just traded away their top of the line safety to the Eagles for basically chump change. Like, they got nothing. So that's a damaged secondary right there that, they might try to take advantage of.
And also Jerry Jeudy might be traded here shortly. There's rumors, at least. So that would be interesting to see what would happen with him if he were to get traded. Zach Moss is going to be interesting to watch, whether or not Jonathan Taylor's actually taking over that job quite yet. Is yet to be seen. I think last week they were dead even 50-50 split in the backfield. So this week is going to be one to watch.
Yeah, and I think what were you going to say?
I was going to say hopefully Jameer can, against the Raiders, can perform really well.
Yeah.
The Raiders have a horrible run defense, and I want to see the kid succeed.
Yeah, I mean, I want to see him explode again and drop another 30-point game. But for Eli, I think one of the most critical pieces here is going to be Christian Watson. Went down with that knee
Yeah.
injury, and there's no real details on it. Reports are that it's not very serious, but he may miss this week. And it's a horrible week to miss because Minnesota has a horrible pass defense, and you got to expect a lot of points are going to come out of him in that game. And then I think this is going to be the most critical point of the matchup because two players are involved. But Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce going up against Denver, the worst defense in the league, who let 70 points happen to them against the Dolphins. That is going to be something to watch. If Mahomes and Kelce just tear it up all day like they did against me in week 7, I think that this one could get ugly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely one to watch. Could go either way.
Into the third matchup of week 8, we have two kind of dogs battling it out here. Both on a skid, one a little bit longer than the other. We have tanking for Caleb, Sam 0-7 versus Charlie Smart Frowny Face 2-5. The 11th and 12th teams in the league. It's currently projected to be a dogfight, and I'm gonna say that this is Sam's best chance of not going defeated.
Right now, it is definitely looking like it.
He's
This might actually be the matchup of the week.
I think we might have to put this one on prime time because you've got some key players here. You've got Desmond Ritter, Bijan, who you assume is going to play again, but Desmond Ritter's been pretty hit or miss. Chris Godwin with a bit of an injury. Jordan Addison, who played an incredible game. Kyle Pitts, who's been underperforming as well, and then Jalen Waddle against a strong Patriots defense, and Joe Mixon against a strong 49ers defense. And then for Charlie, there's questions everywhere. I mean, Austin Eckler had a horrible game in week 7. He's going against a weak Bears defense. Is he going to be able to play with a little bit of an injury that he picked up? And if he does, he should be able to take advantage. You've got Aaron Jones, who's underperforming. I mean, I'm not going to say the word underperforming this many times, but I'll just say the players after this who are underperforming: DeAndre Hopkins, Jonnu Smith, Brandon Cooks, Kadarius Toney. Jonnu Smith overperformed the first few weeks, and he's kind of returned to earth, like you said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I think Josh Allen, he's going against Tampa Bay, who don't have the best defense. I mean, they've got a middle of the pack defense, but if he can shred them apart and put up 40 points, that might be what Charlie needs to get another dub here.
Yeah, I mean, as long as I think what Sam needs to get the dub is for the Falcons to show up and play a game of football.
I mean, 3 players on that offense.
Yeah, and then
crazy.
the battle of the Falcons tight ends in this one as well. It's going to be an interesting one. Hopefully,
this is the battle of the Falcons tight ends.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So, it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out.
Definitely. I think that's got to be our matchup of the week. And then what was the other one that we identified that was really good? Bennett and Eli's might be the primetime game, but we've got another pretty big game right
About to say.
Talk about this one.
Yeah, sure. So me and Kevin, the scared guy that he is, couldn't show up to dissect the matchup today, but it's gonna be a big one.
The 1 and 2 seed.
Yes, 1 and 2 seeds, both 5 and 2. I barely managed to hold on to my first seed designation after falling to Alex last week. But this one's going to be a toss-up. I mean, honestly, it's going to depend on how these offenses come out and play against, honestly, all around some middling matchups. The scariest ones on the board here are Jonathan Taylor at the Saints. And then the Bills defense isn't very good. Yeah, I mean, everybody here, their matchup is a little mid. Jamar Chase against the 49ers is a kind of a tough one. And then Darren Waller against the Jets. Aside from that, everybody's not looking at very, very difficult matchups. So this could be a really high scoring affair between me and Kevin. I'm really interested to see how it's going to play out.
Yeah, and I mean, currently you're projected 19 more than him, which is an insane amount. Projected 134.
Notably, no bye weeks this week.
Yeah.
Not a bye week in the NFL, so everybody's playing. Well, I want to say full strength rosters, but everybody's dealing with a ton of injuries. So
yeah, I think that this is where your trade for Jamar Chase is going to start to show dividends for you. You've got Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen versus a weak Chicago Bears defense. And then on the other side of the ball, Kevin does have somewhat of a tough defensive matchup. Cooper Kupp and Nakua going against Dallas.
That's true.
So we'll see. I think those are the big takeaways and what we should focus on for this matchup, but definitely one to watch out for. And I think that one might go to prime time. We might move Eli and Bennett to Monday night. That might be the Monday night game. Um, However, our second to last matchup of the week, we have Riley Reed option versus Scary Terry's big toe. Now, Wyatt's going to try and stop a slid here. I mean, he's lost 2 games in a row. He's currently projected 130, which is great, and Tal is projected less than 100, which is, less than ideal. And on Wyatt's side, I mean, he's got some pretty good matchups in terms of who he's going after. DJ Moore against the Chargers, weak defense. Jalen Hurts against Washington, as long as he's healthy. Evan Ingram against Pittsburgh, pretty weak defense. And then you've got Nico Collins against the Panthers, who he could pop in that game. The Panthers have a pretty weak secondary. And Tal's got some pretty tough matchups. I mean, Tua and Salvin Ahmed versus the Patriots, who have a tough defense and a division rival, so they always play tough in those games. We just saw the Patriots pull out a crazy win against the Bills, who everybody and their mother thought the Bills were going to win by 25. Fuck
Huge
Caleb.
upset.
Let's win the Super Bowl. Mac Jones MVP. And then, I mean, you've got Romeo Dubs. If Christian Watson is injured, his upside goes up a lot, especially against a weak Minnesota secondary. And then I think the last matchup is probably Dallas Goedert versus Washington. Now, Wyatt does have Jalen Hurts, so that does somewhat cancel out. But if Al can get a lot of receptions checking down like they were the other night, that can boost him in the point total.
Mm-hmm. And another thing to point out, Stephon Diggs has been getting so many targets every single game. Like last game, he got 11 targets. No, he's projected 11 targets this game. He got 16 targets last week. Just tons and tons and tons of opportunities for Stephon Diggs, especially against a matchup like Tampa Bay, where he's probably going to be able to get some separation and get a lot of yards.
Yeah, now that you mention it, I didn't even know that he was targeted 16 times. That's crucial for Tal. He needs that to continue if he's going to upset Wyatt. And now we've got our sixth and final matchup of the week. This is also a close projection. Do you want to talk about this one a little bit?
Sure. Last one up here is, just about 50-50 down the middle. Alex's team continues to look pretty solid, but Al, we got to talk about it. Al's team keeps winning games somehow. Of course, he put up a good score this past week with 128. But for the past, 4 or 5 weeks, he's been winning by the skin of his teeth with some middling scores. Is he going to be able to keep it up? Is it time to buy in? I want to see one more. I want to see this game. If he wins this one by, the skin of his teeth, props to Al. Good on him. I can't believe it. It's crazy. It's the craziest thing I've seen.
I'll be bought in fully. And Al's got good matchups. Lamar Jackson against Arizona, AJ Brown against Washington, which it could be huge. And then, you've got Tank Dell against Carolina if he's healthy and he can play. T. Higgins, a bit of a bad matchup, but we'll see how he can perform against the 49ers. And then on the other side of the ball, you've got CJ Stroud against the Panthers, Pacheco against Denver, Zay Flowers against Arizona, and then both Lions players against the Raiders. So
Amon-Ra could go ballistic this game.
And we'll see if one of their win streaks is going to have to come to an end. Is it going to be Al's 5-win streak coming back from 0-2, or is it going to be Alex's 2-win streak coming back from 0-5? We're going to have to watch out. And, I hate to say I'm rooting against Al, but I'm kind of rooting for Alex as the underdog now.
After having fallen to Alex, I want to see what his team can do. Make sure it's not a fluke against all my guys.
Yeah. And now before we dive into the injuries, we can look at any of the trades that have happened this week. So obviously the big one, Kevin is a dumbass and he drops Jonathan Taylor to the waivers because lets his friend have his phone. And so Daddy Commissioner had to come in and fix his roster for him so he could win. But Paul Allen traded Elijah Moore to Bennett for Roshan Johnson. Kind of a middling trade, but interesting. Kind of just a depth piece.
Yeah, speculative probably.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out. But now the big trade that we have to talk about is Eli trades Devontae Adams, drops Jordan Mason, and gets Jahmyr Gibbs and Christian Watson. Now, Christian Watson does take a little minor injury, but Jahmyr Gibbs puts on a show out performance, and Devontae Adams looks pretty rough without Jimmy G. So I think Eli got the better of that trade, and Noah's team gets worse right when I'm about to play him, so I can't complain.
That is great to see from your perspective. It's going to be interesting to see how Devontae Adams is able to perform over the next couple of weeks without Jimmy G, and then with also Jacoby Myers has been playing fantastic. Like he's been earning the catches that he's getting.
Mm-hmm.
If Jahmyr can keep it up, and if Christian Watson can stay healthy, then yeah, I think that Eli's side of the trade looks pretty good.
And then obviously we talked about it last week. T. Higgins for Josh Reynolds. We'll see the effects of that come out when T. Higgins plays this week. Obviously, he was on a bye, but depending on that, Charlie may have a little bit of a knot in his stomach if T. Higgins drops a bomb this week.
That would be unfortunate, and it could happen.
And it could happen. And now moving on to the injuries, we've got a lot this week, so I'll just try and rapid fire through them with as much as I know. If you know anything, just shout out, and or the ones that you added, I'll let you take. Obviously you got the first one, so you go ahead.
Yeah, so Jerome Ford pops off at the very beginning of the game this week with a 69-yard touchdown run. It was awesome. I had barely even sat down and like opened my phone to see what was going on. I was like, oh, I'm up by 10. But towards the end of the game, he goes down with what has been described on Twitter is a low-grade high ankle injury, which unfortunately do kind of go against each other. Typically, high ankles injuries are either 0 weeks or 3 weeks out. So could be looking at a 3-week injury for Jerome Ford. I'll be missing him while he's gone.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to talk about the Browns running backs room. Is there a curse? Are we going to see Kareem Hunt go down and possibly
Kareem Hunt also got a much smaller injury in the last game. And who's the third guy up there now? Yeah, so he saw a bunch of touches last week. I think he's on waivers right now. It'll be interesting to see
if anybody targets him.
Yeah, what happens.
But moving forward, another running back injury. Bijan with a migraine happened the night before, according to him in an interview, but it wasn't declared by the team. And that's why no fantasy managers knew. Everybody lost a bunch of money betting on him. And there's kind of an uproar in the NFL community right now about this because the Falcons didn't declare it, and you're supposed to declare it so that the other team has a fair chance of planning against you. It'll be interesting to see if the NFL takes an action there, but nothing really to monitor with Bijan.
I heard that the NFL is like going to fine the Falcons for not doing anything, and I honestly don't know if it's because of the competitive advantage or if it's because
the gambling
Vegas.
Yeah, definitely. Next one, Christian Watson, right knee sprain. From what I've heard, it's not serious. He may miss this week, but beyond that, he should be good to go. Zach Ertz to the IR. He strained his hamstring. Drop him from your roster. He was not very good to begin with. He was at the beginning of the year when the Cardinals looked all right, but now that they're trash like we thought they were, it's going to be a brutal scene from him. And we're coming up on 10 minutes, so we're going to rapid fire through everything else. Your guy, your rapist.
Yeah, Deshaun Watson, everybody's favorite QB, goes down very shortly after the beginning of the game.
One pass.
Yeah, okay, one, and it was an interception actually, because he scored negative 3.98 points for me this week on my bench.
He had one pass for 5 yards, and then he threw
a pick and went down. Hurt. All right, yep, it's karma. It's just coming back in full force for him. He clears the concussion protocol in the game, doesn't ever make it back out onto the field. So interesting to see. Unfortunate for my bench, but I'm so glad that I got off of him when I did a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Great call.
Great call. Great call for you. For the karma too.
Yeah.
Next one, tight end injury again. Dawson Knox, wrist injury. He needs surgery. Probably going to be out at least 5 to 6 weeks, if not more. Dalton Kincaid kind of takes a jump up, so the Bills don't really have a reason to bring Dawson Knox back too soon. Another tight end injury, Luke Musgrave ankle injury. I have no details on this one. We're gonna have to see how it plays out throughout the week, but something to watch for Eli. Then another thing to watch for Eli, Debo Samuel with a hairline fracture in his shoulder, unlikely to play week 8. They have a week 9 bye, so most likely he'll return week 10. If it turns out that it is serious, he could miss significant time, but reports are that at most he'll miss this week and then the bye week. James Conner to the IR with a right knee injury, another bad blow for Charlie. His team keeps getting worse and more injured. And then this one I just added, not really an injury, but Chris Olave was arrested last night for reckless driving, 70 and a 35. Unlikely to affect anything. I doubt the NFL suspends him when they let Alvin Kamara come back with a active domestic abuse charge, but you hate to see it from Chris Olave, just disrespectful and, not the kind of guy that you'd want to date your daughter.
I did read that he did comply with the police. So
Well, why wouldn't you?
good on him. I don't know. Because you're speeding and you're probably not going to get in trouble anyway.
He complied with the police, but I saw a video and he said, I play for the Saints. And the cop goes, and? But that's it for the injuries. Kind of a lot of things to monitor. And now we've got a little over 7 minutes left. So we'll hit the talking points really quick. We already discussed the trades. And we touched on this a little bit, but Al has won 5 in a row, the longest W streak in the league. Is it time to buy in? I'm not so sure. I want to see this matchup against Alex this week. If Alex can break the curse, it's over. But if Al can pull this one out on the hot streak that Alex is having with a little bit of a resurgence in his team, I'm bought in.
I think it's time. I mean, it'll be interesting to see if something happens with Derrick Henry by the trade deadline for Al's team. But everybody else is, I mean, they haven't been performing. They haven't been putting up fantastic fantasy numbers overall, but the individual players are very good. So
Yeah. And
he's capable of doing it.
Kind of like Kevin and I called it, Al's team is boom or bust. And unfortunately for the rest of us, doesn't matter whether he's booming or busting, he's winning games. So he's taking away our playoff chances. And switching to somebody who's also on a win streak, Alex wins 2 in a row. We mentioned it, but it's something to watch this week 8 as he plays Al. Somebody else who's on the other end of a 2-game streak, Charlie loses a second game in a row. He's down to 2-5. Has his ship sailed? Many say yes. I mean, I've heard players are rioting in the locker room. They're disgusted by the caliber of player that are sitting next to them, but those are just rumors. I mean, it's all alleged.
It could be trade time for Charlie, but obviously it's up to him. And if he wants to ride it out and see what happens, then more power, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 2 key pieces that he could easily sell and build a team with. You could sell Josh Allen for probably a middle quarterback, a good wide receiver, a good running back, and then you could sell Austin Eckler. At this point, his value is low, but you could probably get a wide receiver 2 and a running back 2 for him, and maybe like a flex guy that you can throw in there week in, week out. And it's just interesting to see if he decides to do that, but we'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. The next point, Charlie has scored less than 100 points in 5 out of 7 weeks. How can he win like this? We kind of just talked about it. He
say, I've got a great idea. Ask Al, and that is pretty much it. I think he's the only one with that kind of knowledge. But yeah, I think you're right. Aside from that, you can't really do that if you're consistently putting up less than 100 points week in, week out. You're not gonna. The math doesn't favor you in that one.
No, not at all. Next point, Noah and Wyatt both dropped 2 in a row. What can they do to stop the bleeding? There's a crucial matchup this week. Obviously, I'm playing Noah and Wyatt is playing Tal. Yeah, so we're both projected. I mean, I'm projected over Noah. Wyatt is projected over Tal at the moment by quite a good margin. So it'll be interesting to see how those matchups shake out. And then we got to talk about it. Kevin's on kind of a streak now. He started out 1-2. He's won 4 in a row. How did he right the ship? Even though he traded for Justin Jefferson and then he goes down, Kevin still seems to win. I mean, the Puka Nacua waiver wire pickup.
I was going to say, Kevin's had some good waiver action so far this season. The Deontay Foreman pickup last week is looking great. Mark Andrews is having a solid fantasy season so far, a little under probably where he wanted him to be at. So hopefully he gets more back to where he was last week, which is in the low 20s range.
Yeah. And then second to last, oh, not second to last fantasy point. Sam's season is all but over at this point, 0-7. He would need to win out in order to even have a shot of making the playoffs. And he has less than a 1% chance. You hate to see it, but somebody had to be the first to fall. And I think we're officially giving Sam the playoff axe. So first one eliminated. There's only 4 more to go. Somebody else who's potentially on the bridge of elimination, depending the next few weeks, me. I would have beat 9 out of 12 teams this week. I have the second most points against, only behind Sam by I think like 60. Can I stay alive with luck this bad? Everybody that I face, for the most part, is bombing me. So
Yeah, you and Sam
yeah,
are just getting points put up on you with reckless abandon. It's been, I want to say, unfortunate to see, not for me, but
happens.
it does happen.
You got to try and build the team around it, build a better team.
Better defense.
Yeah. Sam's will swallow for it.
Yeah.
Next NFL point, we have a couple of them here. Mahomes to Kelsey stack, it's just too good. 75.8 combines in week 7. Killed me, ruined my week. That's all I want to say about that. Speaking of my team again, where is Devontae Smith? AJ Brown has had 5 straight weeks of 125 receiving yards, and he's got touchdowns in a couple of them. It's disgusting to me to see, especially after how good Devontae Smith looked to start, and it hurts, but I just got to hope and pray that Jalen Hurts finds my boy the ball. He is the Slim Reaper. Lamar Jackson, we talked about this, but a pop-off week for 39 points. He looks very strong for Al. Kamara for Wyatt, another seemingly hit or miss player from what Kevin and I were talking about on the podcast, but he's put up great performances since he's been back. 29 points this week for Wyatt, even though he took a loss, but it's good to see.
Yeah, he leads the league in rushing back receptions by a pretty good margin and missed the first 3 games.
Yeah.
So it's been crazy to see how efficient how inefficient he's been with the ball, but efficient he's been in getting PPR points.
Yeah. And I think he has like 38% of the team's target share right now, which from a running back is just disgusting.
Disgusting.
The next point, we talked about it a little bit. Eli trades Devontae Adams for Christian Watson and Gibbs the week before Gibbs breaks out. Or no, the week he breaks out. It happened like literally the day before. But we have
he was like calling you right before the matchup started to get you to push through the trade.
Yeah, but we have to ask, did he pay a blood sacrifice for that? Christian Watson goes down, kind of suspect, and commissioner might be looking into it. But beyond that, Eli's team's also feeling the injury bug. He's got 2 running backs on IR. Debo injury still a problem for a few weeks, and then Watson and Musgrave go down this week. Something to monitor for him, but injuries are to be happened all the time in the NFL, so that's the way it is. And that's the end of Behind the Lines. Thank you, Henry, for joining and co-hosting with me tonight in Kevin's absence. And good luck to everybody out there this week.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good luck, everybody.